Do you like Snake Eye mirror matches, summoning Snake Eye Ash, and full comboing using Sinful Spoil cards that facilitate Snake Eye plays? Because if so, YCS Indianapolis was probably right up your alley. And if not, to hell with you. Hello YouTube, my name is Mega Capital G, and once again, I spent my entire weekend watching the live stream, surfing social media, and checking up on the YCS coverage so that you didn't have to. This is what the heck happened at YCS Indianapolis 2024. YCS Indianapolis looked to be a very interesting event, and Yu-Gi-Oh players were expectedly excited for it. This was the first American YCS post Legacy of Destruction, and also being held under the April 15th ban list. While we have had a lot of national championships in Europe and Latin America, as well as some European Opens in various countries, in terms of us living here in North America, this was pretty much going to be our proving ground. YCS attendance numbers for Indy were very solid. In fact, they were actually incredibly similar to YCS Raleigh about 5 weeks ago, with the event clocking in at 1,830 duelists according to the Konami blog. The live stream, in my opinion, was pretty smooth, and I did notice that Konami really went out of their way to try to feature a lot of rogue and non-Snake Eye decks early on. You had two-time YCS winner Steven Santoli, who won a match 2-0 on stream with Vanquish Soul. Dean Ken Pham won on Purely. Sadly, he did end up finishing 35th at the event, which was kind of a shame. They featured Runic Stun, Sharks, and get this, even Super Heavy Samurai Orcus, which I'm gonna be real, I didn't even know that was a thing. To me, I think that the Swiss portion of the event was very entertaining because of all the deck diversity. To further this, Konami also went out of their way to showcase a lot of the newer Legacy of Destruction archetypes, the ones that got a big boost from the set, such as Melodious, Tempe Dragons, the Chimera Illusion deck, and then also Ubel. Yes, there were some dud feature matches, like when they put Pac on stream, and he ended up playing in a branded Despia mirror match, which, I mean, that match literally just devolved into who could gimmick puppet lock the other one first. With that all said, however, then you got to the later portion of the tournament, and let's just be honest, that's when the Snake Eye nightmare began. Obviously, Snake Eye was going to be super prevalent when it came to the competitive field, and lots of people were going to be on the deck. You could also say that it was the definitive betting favorite going into YCS Indianapolis, but oh my goodness, did it ever make the YCS top cut feel like a complete and utter uneventful inevitable drag? And I think that's what people really have a huge issue with here. Since Europe apparently just doesn't have YCS tournaments anymore, and most of the YCSs in Latin America aren't even streamed, this really felt like the first big showcase for the TCG post Legacy of Destruction, and also with the new ban list in effect. You've got Tempe Dragons that just came out, you have Melodious getting new support, Ubel and Voiceless Voice each got a huge support card, and lo and behold, when everything shakes out, we're right back where we started with, in a complete and utter fire-dominated Snake Eye metagame. I think that the top 32 pretty much spells it all and puts everything on full display, with 20 classified pure Snake Eye decks, which, by the way, it doesn't even include Kashtira Snake Eye or Fire King Snake Eye, so if you didn't want to be literal about it and you just wanted to look at how many Snake Eye decks there were, it's actually higher than 20. Now, we did see other decks in the top 32, such as Branded Despia, Kashtira, Labyrinth, Tempe Dragons, and Voiceless Voice. It's just that pretty much all those only had a single player representing them in the top cut, all except Runic and Melodious, which had 2. In my opinion, despite what you see on the surface level, this top 32 isn't actual diversity in the metagame, because you can look at it and you can see 8 or 9 different meta decks and think that that's a lot, but then you realize that Snake Eye is topping at a rate 20x of everything else. This actually got worse pretty much instantly as the top cut progressed. In the top 16, there were 12 Snake Eye decks to be found, so 3/4 or 75%. And then as you moved a step further, it actually got even worse than that. Top 8 was 7 Snake Eye decks, so 87.5%, which, I mean, that is absolutely mind-blowing. You are nearing 90% of a single deck. And then since Labyrinth lost in the quarterfinals, obviously, you know, Snake Eye was the entire semifinals, including the eventual champion. On that note, I will say that from a competitive standpoint at least, the top 4 of YCS Indianapolis was absolutely stacked with great players. This included Simon He, YCS Raleigh champion Cam Neal, 5-time YCS champion Christopher LeBlanc, and your new YCS Indianapolis winner, and I believe, I'm just going to do this off the top of my head, 4-time YCS champion Paulo Goncalves. So you did have pretty much an abundance of skill amongst some of the top players of this tournament. With that being said, the top 4 deck lists all seem to be fairly similar, which I guess one could make the argument that, at least until Battles of Legends, or probably more so Infinite Forbidden, that maybe the format is already solved, which again, it seems like we should kind of be in a new format, type position, but I don't think that that's going to be the case. Crossout Designator seems to be a mainstay in Snake Eye decks, as in the finals, it ironically was used to negate Skill Drain, which, it's pretty ironic because Skill Drain is a massive negate card and it was negated by another card that negates. Those seem to be 2 of the biggest tech cards of the entire event, by the way, Skill Drain and Crossout Designator. One thing that I definitely noticed that I felt like I had to talk about was once again the standout performance of Labyrinth as a deck, and how it seems to be oddly faring the best out of all the meta contenders against Snake Eye. I say this not just because it was the last non-Snake Eye deck standing in the field, but also, if you remember, it did make it to the finals of YCS Raleigh not that long ago, and once again, that was pretty unexpectedly. I think that a lot of this has to do specifically with Destructive Daruma Cannon and how absolutely insane that card is against basically every deck in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. I mean, there's really not a way to play around that card. It affects every monster, even monsters that like can't be affected or can't be flipped face down. It affects the players, so it gets rid of those cards, and everything else just gets flipped down. You look at Labyrinth, they can easily max out on the card. They can pull it straight from their deck with Trap Trick or Lady, and then they can even reset it. So if a player uses it, just because it's in the graveyard doesn't mean that it's kind of done. They can either reset the card or they can use something like rollback and just copy it. So it seems to be that Labyrinth might weirdly be the best Snake Eye counter, at least according to the results. Social media did not take Indy's top cut well. A lot of people like myself were just posting glib things like Link Karibo died for this, or so glad we banned Link Karibo just so that we could have Snake Eye taking up damn near 90% of the top 16. And a lot of people were just mad to see Snake Eye crush the competition, which, by the way, isn't just my opinion. That's literally a verbatim quote from Konami themselves from their tournament vlog in the top 8 pie chart. So even they're acknowledging at this point that Snake Eye is infinitely better than all the other decks and that there really isn't much competition out there. A lot of people called into question Konami not hitting any of the Snake Eye cards directly, or by proxy, I guess you could say the Sinful Spoils engine, because they do work directly with the Snake Eyes archetype. I personally think that OSS, Original Snake Eye, and the Wanted poster give way too much advantage on the back end, whether it be free draw ones or just free searches, even if you do happen to stop those cards. Let alone the fact that Snake Eye Ash alone is a card that you basically have to stop it or it will just win the game by itself, and I don't think that there should be those type of cards in the game. I did see a lot of people complaining about the metagame overall, and there were even some calls for people asking for an emergency ban list or at least flirting with that idea. To me, I think that the real issue is Konami just had a ban list and a new core booster set dropping to TCG, and the best deck from the last metagame is the same exact deck and in the same exact position as it was before either of those things happened. So clearly this whole idea of ignoring Snake Eyes and just hitting a bunch of these extra deck cards that Snake Eyes happens to play, that approach just didn't work. This unfortunately means that if you're going to be playing at regionals over the next few weeks, this is probably what you're going to be dealing with. Personally, I don't like tier 0 formats. I don't find them fun, and this is especially true once we just had a ban list that was supposed to curb the tier 0 deck. That's like, again, the most frustrating point. At least at the NAWCQ and Euros, we will have Infinite Forbidden and Battles of Legends, but who knows, maybe, Konami will end up giving us an FNL list that comes out before those events, and maybe we'll be saved from all of this Snake Eyes nightmare nonsense. But you guys let me know, leave that in the comment section below. Also, what did you think of YCS Indianapolis? And I guess more importantly, do you believe that Snake Eyes is a problem? Even the people who were holdouts from last format, who were like, Cap, fire's not even that big of a deal. Are you believing it now? I mean, this is just absolutely absurd, the domination of fire. I mean, at this point, you need to just extinguish it. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. As always, leave it in the comment section below.